And how's that for a transition? You guys ever wonder what it would be like to date the cruel yet beautiful personification of winter? I mean, think about it. You got characters like Crisp Kringle, Jack Frost, Snoopy. All really good examples, but they fall on the other side of the spectrum. So while girls have this, gentlemen, what's left for us? Alright, let's see who we got here. Mariah Carey, not 2D enough. Elsa, too close to my childhood. Mrs. Claus is fine, but I don't want to get on Crisp Kringle's bad side. Ho ho ho. Just try it, bitch. Come on, there's gotta be somebody who... Oh. She's perfect! Wait a minute. Is it gonna freeze off? Do I need to practice? How do I test this? How do I practice for this? Welcome to the series where I teach you why it's a bad idea to date outside your home team. I usually do this by summing up the history and the origin story of the monster girl in question, followed by summing up the superpowers and party tricks that they have so that way you can assess the danger for yourself. I then follow that up by telling you how I think that society and governments and people would just react to having a whole species of Yuki-Onna just introduced to our race. Then I finish it up with my personal thoughts and gripes and tell you why I personally just wouldn't or would want to go out with her. The Yuki-Onna in this case is going to be a little bit difficult because of the way that she started up. As you're going to find, depending on who you ask, she could be entirely different. So I'm going to try to sum it up as best I can, the general idea of what the Yuki-Onna is, and then I'll bring up some of the other versions of her that I think are pretty interesting to bring up. But for the most part, I hope that I can try to create as clean a picture of the Yuki-Onna as I can. She's a beautiful spirit woman, it's what she deserves. Also, just to be safe, I am not a solid researcher. Don't submit my videos as proof of anything because I could be wrong. I'm also not correct in my research unless I am, and I am also not liable for anybody who gets stuck to a broccoli bag. Hey, has anyone seen what happened to my broccoli? Coming! So without further ado, let's begin. Yuki-Onna, or Snow Woman, is a being referred to as a yokai, that being a spirit of Japanese lore who resides in Japan, the home of many cute and seductively deadly spirit women. Seriously, I don't know why they have so many, but I'm so jealous. Like, we have the skunk ape, Bigfoot, and Mothman, but Japan has beautiful women cryptids. Can we, do a cultural exchange or something? Because this is just unfair. Anyway, back to the Yuki-Onna. She is said to be drop-dead gorgeous, just the most beautiful winter woman you've ever seen, with long dark hair, skin as pale as the driven snow, a white kimono, and, in some cases, having blue lips and being as tall as maybe 10 feet. Her shtick is that she walks around the winter woods of Japan looking for young men to seduce, and in doing so, steals their soul, either via a kiss or via third base. And at her core is the personification of winter itself, a woman that is supposed to represent the cold and fierceness of winter, while also showing its softness and beauty. But even with the details that I just described to you, there's a chance that I am wrong with that, because depending on what prefecture you hail from or what person you ask, you might get an entirely different Yuki-Onna. I've seen sources that say that the Yuki-Onna has long silver hair and a blue complexion. I've seen sources that say that she has no kimono and doesn't wear anything at all. I've seen sources that say that she has no pupils in her eyes. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're a man of variety, look no further than the Yuki-Onna, who is a bag of Skittles, more or less, both physically and behaviorally. All's well and good, so long as we don't lose that icy stare, that just drives me nuts. So much like with physical traits, depending on who you ask, the Yuki-Onna could be benevolent in nature, others may kill you, some are mischievous pranksters, some steal children, and one will apparently wait in the snow. Oh yeah, alright, so one of my personal favorite Yuki-Onnas is one that will apparently stand out in the woods, waiting for travelers to pass by, and if you are that lucky 1 in a million traveler, she will ask you to hold her baby, and if you do, if you're nice enough to do that, you hold on to it, and then it increasingly gets heavier, causing you to sink into the snow and freeze to death. And if you choose not to hold on to the baby, she will shove you into a snowbank, and you will still probably freeze to death, which kind of mean, but so is not helping a mother and her baby in the freezing cold, so put a mythological sock in it. Make it a Japanese sock too, because it's thicker. But despite her odd sense of justice, she's not too unfair. For if you manage to hold on to the baby sinking into the snow, not freezing to death from a Hokkaido winter's night, she will reward you with, and I quote, great physical strength. Let's be honest, if you were holding that everly increasingly weighted baby for the duration of a Hokkaido winter's night, you probably had overwhelming strength to begin with. So many Yuki-Onnas, but where does this magical snow woman come from? Short answer, Japan. Longer answer, for the most part, what I could find is that every prefecture has the same answer. We have our own version of the Yuki-Onna. We don't know where it might have originated from, but ours stems from this era. So, I had a few sources that mentioned that she might have come from the northern part of Japan, go figure, that's where all the snow is, about south of Hokkaido in a prefecture called Tohoku. I don't know if that's the correct answer, but if I had to assess, if the Yuki-Onna is going to be anywhere, it's probably going to be where there is snow. Going back to those prefectures, there are some people that say the Yuki-Onna came from a maiden that got lost in the snow and became a vengeful spirit. Others say that she's a goddess that came down from on high in search of attractive young men, and so she decided to stay here. It's really a bunch of pick and choose canon, which is why to make things easier, you could just go with the short answer.
According to my calculations, let's see here, hot spirit woman, ice princess demeanor, magical girl, yep, Japanese.
But what we lack with a centralized origin story, we make up for with a mischief story of the Yuki-Onna that most people go to when they talk about her. So there's like a little bit of unified storytelling where most people can agree on this bit of the Yuki-Onna. The way that I see her, it's kind of like the Fate franchise, where despite being messy and convoluted, right, we can all mostly agree that the Heaven's Feel movies are the best that Fate has to offer, and that Sakura's route is the best route. Fight me. So most people would say that this is the story that you talk about when you talk about the Yuki-Onna. And to that, we largely thank Lafcadio Hearn, a fellow Japanophile and writer who is largely credited with taking Japanese stories, translating them, and bringing them to the West. The story in particular is one that I will refer to as the story of Minokichi. In the village of Musashi Province, there was a woodcutter named Minokichi. Minokichi was apprenticed to an old man called Mosaku. As Minokichi and Mosaku were on their way home, they found that the dock worker that is meant to ferry them across the river in order to get home was not there. To make matters worse, a freak blizzard blew in and started snowing heavily down on the two men, who had to take shelter in the abandoned barn next to the ferry dock, where they proceeded to fall asleep. In the middle of the night, Minokichi wakes up to find the barn doors have been blown open, snow is blowing on his face, but most peculiar, he finds a beautiful spirit woman dressed in a white kimono, standing over Mosaku and breathing a frosty breath of air that promptly freezes the old man where he lies. Mosaku remains asleep as he is promptly frozen to death, while Minokichi, frozen with fear, could do nothing but watch as the mystery woman starts to approach him. As this mystery woman approaches Minokichi and leans over him, she takes one look at his face and has a change of heart. She smiles as she says, and I'm paraphrasing here, "You know what, kid? You're pretty cute. Tell you what, I'm gonna let you live. But on one condition. You do not tell anybody of what you saw this night. If you speak to anybody of my existence, I will know it and I will freeze you where you stand. Remember what I say." Minokichi was like, "Yes, ma'am," and then she walks out of the barn, presumably never to be seen again. The next morning, Minokichi catches the ferryman that takes him back to town. He is very deathly ill, but he makes it, and he, true to his word, does not mention anything about the mystery woman he met the night before. After taking some time to recover, Minokichi gets back on his feet and he returns to his job as a woodcutter. On his way home, he meets a woman in the woods who is lost on her way to find her relatives. The woman introduces herself as Yuki, also saying that she got lost on the way to find her relatives, and she is pretty. Minokichi offers to escort her back to the main road, probably in boy crush mode, but the two of them really hit it off, and he invites her back to his house. So Yuki never makes it back to her relatives, instead prompting to stay with Minokichi, where the two of them eventually get married. Yuki gets a chance to meet Minokichi's relatives, gets acquainted with the town, and has 10 kids with the man. Oh my god. I mean, good job, but give her a break, dude. Minokichi and Yuki stay together for years, and the villagers take note that, for some odd reason, Yuki doesn't appear to age. Despite the fact that she has had 10 kids, it doesn't seem like the stress of parenthood or marriage has gotten to her. She's still as springy as they was when they first met her, and none more so than to Minokichi, who also remarks that she hasn't changed a bit. But this would all change one night when Minokichi makes an unfortunate error that ends up splitting the two apart. As Yuki is looking up at the night sky, her face basking in the light of the moon, Minokichi is reminded of the night when he encountered the mystery woman. He starts off with a chuckle as he mentions to Yuki that he reminds her of a woman that he had encountered so long ago. Yuki says nothing as she turns to look at Minokichi, who continues to recant his tale about how this mystery woman froze his boss, spared his life, and told him that she would freeze him to death if he should tell anybody of what happened that night. Minokichi finishes his story saying that because it had been so long, he believed that he was in the clear. Unfortunately for him, Yuki-Onna was watching. The temperature of the room suddenly drops. Yuki's eyes go cold as she looks at Minokichi with anger, saying that she told him never to speak of that night. You better take care of our children, for if they have a reason to complain about you, I will return and treat you as you deserve. Even as she screamed, her voice became thin, almost as if she was holding back tears. And as the wind blew in, Yuki turned into a fine mist as she disappeared into the night, never to be seen again. Moral of the story, the way that I see it, don't tell your significant other that she looks like another woman. If I had a nickel for every time a woodcutter fumbled a magical wife, I'd have 2 of them at this point. There is a YouTuber called Jake W who does funny animations, and he did an animation on this story that is absolutely perfect. I just can't get it out of my head. It was, when I watched it for this video, it was fun. So if you want a version of this story that is told in a better way than I can do it, go give that one a watch. There are other stories about the Yuki-Onna that aren't as good. Like, there was one where a woman walks in on an innkeeper and she has a good time talking with him and his wife, only for her to want to leave out in the middle of a freak blizzard, to which the innkeeper says, no, don't leave, grabs onto her skin, she becomes ice cold, turns into a fine mist, and then escapes through the chimney into the cold. So, that's a thing. There was also another story back in the day of a man who had claimed to have married a Yuki-Onna, where after marrying this woman, he found that she had refused to take a bath, or at least refused to take a hot bath, and pushing her into doing it just kept saying, hey, you need to get clean, you need to take a hot bath because it's good for the body, to which she acquiesces, goes into the hot bath, and 15 minutes later, when he goes to check on her, he finds that the bath was filled with icicles. Which, now that I say that out loud, that might have been a clever way to try to divorce him. So Lafcadio Hearn translated that story around 1850, if I remember correctly. Fast forward about 100 years, and the Yuki-Onna has become somewhat of an icon for the spirit women of Japan, being featured in movies as well as Japanese literature and other forms of entertainment that would exist into the modern day. She's a video game boss, she's an anime girl, she's even a Pokemon. But I'll tell you what she's not. She's not the same cautionary tale of winter that she used to represent to a huddled village community that existed long before the invention of the heater. Much like other monster girls that I've talked about on this channel, she was made to be a metaphor for the dangers of our world, only for future generations to become less and less scared of her as we got better at conquering nature. And boy did we do a number on this one. But if we're talking about the Yuki-Onna specifically, that's kind of her idea. Remember at the beginning when I said that she was supposed to represent the cruelty and yet softness and beauty of winter? Well, that's kind of what's going on. Winter is cruel and harsh and nothing grows, but it also has a soft and beautiful side to it, and so does she. Many of them, in fact. She let Minokichi live despite breaking his promise. She's known to spare a victim from time to time. Her legs would probably make the ultimate summer lap pillow. But lest we forget, she is also cold, unforgiving, but beautiful. The personification of winter. Yuki-Onna. On to the power summary. Now, the Yuki-Onna, as it would seem, has many abilities, so I'll try to bullet point them as best I can here. First thing that I have is that she can transform into a mist. This is evident with that side story of her and the innkeeper, where she turns into a mist and escapes up the chimney, and also as she turns into a mist during the end of the Minokichi story. Another thing about the Minokichi story, she can freeze people with her breath, which I find that I can do if I take five gums and then down maybe 2 duo mints, but whatever, if she wants to be special. She can shapeshift into that of either a regular person or into her winter form, or into a gaseous mist, I guess, so that's a power that she has. I'm kind of on the fence as to whether or not she can control the weather, because for the most part, there are sources that say that she can, but the stories that I told you are not ones where she does. At the very least, she might be able to control a breeze that pushes her gaseous form out of a house, but I don't think that she can control the weather, but I'll just leave it on here, just, add to the list. Another prominent power, she does not age. I don't know if that necessarily means that she's immortal, or if we're just playing by elf rules, where it just lasts 10 times longer than that of a human, but I just know that she doesn't look like she gets older. And last but not least, she can drain you of your life force via a kiss or by boinking you. Don't ask me what happens if she does both, because I really don't know. So yeah, that's quite the list of party tricks. I think she has the record for the most abilities that I've seen so far on this channel, so... Man, Yuki-Onna, you're killing it. But here's the big question. How do I think society would react? How would governments react if Yuki-Onna had similar citizenship to us? And my answer is, once again, nonchalant. I really don't think that many things would change. I'll get to government sanctions and rules and regulations later, but when it comes to the Yuki-Onna's living habits, I think what would happen is, once the borders are open and they're able to move wherever they want, a fair amount of them would probably move to the States because of how much colder it seems to be getting over here. They'd probably go to other places too, like just places in the north, so Scotland, Norway, Finland, Siberia. I get the feeling that they also crave attention, which is why they keep trying to get the attention of travelers and finding attractive young men. So probably not going to find any moving to Antarctica anytime soon. But as far as moving goes, I don't think it's going to be that much of a hassle. Take the slit-mouthed woman, right? She is blocked by a language barrier. Her shtick involves you having to talk to you. So if she goes to America, she needs to speak in Japanese, or she speaks in Japanese, and it probably won't translate. Yuki-Onna doesn't have that problem. That language barrier doesn't exist for her because if she is just a lone woman in the middle of in the middle of nowhere holding a baby, she could just hand it over without having to talk. And even if you were one of those Yuki-Onna that are just out to seduce men, like, there are people in the States that think that the Japanese language is a frickin' turn-on, so yeah, that would actually help in your favor. Speaking of blending in with society, because they can shapeshift into seemingly normal people, they should have no problem doing the same things that we do on a day-to-day basis. The only hint to them not being human being that they cannot age, so it takes a lot longer to figure that out, that they are not human, than you could point out for anybody else, like the Slitmouth Woman, or Centaur, or Harpy, or any of them. TSA is going to have a real big problem with that, aren't they? A lot of people would probably be into mingling, because she could virtually do anything that a regular girl can, albeit with a little more temp tolerance. So the movies, right? Yuki-Onna accessible, doing a ice skating date, Yuki-Onna accessible, and probably a really good idea for a first date. Shopping mall, park stroll, laser tag, bumper car date, you name it, sister. I don't really know as to what their heat tolerance would be. I don't imagine that a lot of them would be hanging out by the equator. I guess if you're feeling really devious, you could take your Yuki-Onna girlfriend to a hot sauna to see how she tolerates it. She'll probably melt, or if she catches on to your BS, she'll probably get angry, and I highly advise against doing this idea, because it's best to stay on her good side lest she turn your manhood into an ice pop. One of those pops with the gumball eyes too, just to include all the parts, you know the ones. I don't think that people would be outwardly racist towards her. She could shapeshift into anything, but at least they wouldn't gather in the same capacity as the group of people that would want to get her attention. And honestly, I'm more worried about that group because just the amount of people that will probably commit experiments against humanity in pursuit of the Snow Woman. But hey, on the bright side, found a new way to warm up broccoli. When it comes to regulation on killing, what I think governments would do is just simply make a law against it. Not like there isn't one that already exists in the first place, but a special law for Yuki-Onna that say, hey, we know you exist here, but, you know, killing is not something that we do in our societies, at least not lawfully, so don't do it. I got a pretty good feeling that the Yuki-Onna will follow that rule, because I'm sure it would just be a hassle having law enforcement after you constantly. But I also think that the Yuki-Onna don't really kill as a measure to survive, but do so really just for gits and shiggles, like a succubus. So if they have to give it up, I'm sure that they can. I'm not naive. I know that's not going to stop every killer ice woman, but when you canonically look this hot, no one's going to care. Like, have a human. You've earned it. Camping becomes more dangerous. The life expectancy of us adventure-seeking thrill seekers decreases by 1/4, and populations might skyrocket. Yeah, because depending on how you look at the Minokichi story, she may be fertile as 10 kids. Yeah. Now for the big question. What do I think of the Yuki-Onna? It's a really bad idea. But I really want to. I can't help it. It's the icy stare. It's the stare, it's the powers, it's the fact that she's special. It's a bad idea. I know it is, because I don't think that the Yuki-Onna and I are going to pair up really well. But she's just so... You see it too, right? Like, it's not a phase, Mom. She looks hot. Let's talk about the pros first, right? Looking at the Minokichi story, he had kids with her, and was able to go another 9 rounds. So... I'm glad that Minokichi's story cleared that one up for us. After all, if the dick don't freeze, you must appease. Pro number 2. I probably can't accomplish my lifelong dream of a mixed bath date. but I can virtually do anything else without having to accommodate for her not being a human. And pro number 3, she does not age. I don't know if that means she ages slower or if she's immortal, but she will be the same hot spirit woman that you met all those years ago. And one of my Filipino superpowers is that I don't age either. So it's perfect. Seriously, my mom was born in 75 and she still looks like a teenager. No, my mom is not a Yuki-Onna. She is a cold phobe like me, which takes me to the cons. I have 2 of them. Con number 1, I cannot take the cold. I am a baby when it comes to the cold. I complain about it every chance that I get. And to do that in front of her would be an insult, and she deserves a lot better than that. I guess I could probably try to acclimate to the cold and see how much better that I can get used to it. But I really don't have any confidence in my ability to do that, and I've been in this new location for like a month, and I still complain about the cold in the same capacity. And then there's con number 2. It's not me, it's her, and it's definitely her. Now, if the Minokichi story is to be looked at in this light, if you so much as mention another woman, she may be extremely and violently jealous to the point of murder. I'll be real with you. I love that trope of the wife, like the girlfriend, the woman holding all the power, while the significant other, the husband, the boyfriend, looks like this big buff dude you don't want to mess with, but then she strolls up, angry in face, like fist ready to hit him, takes him by the ear and then drags him away, and then he's just like, help, fellow friends, fellow men, don't let her take me alive. And then the friends are just like kicking the dirt and they're like, no, I ain't getting involved in that, she's all yours. So she just takes him to the back to deal with him in private, and she holds all the power, she wears the pants. But then there are those moments where she's tender, she's caring, she lets you sleep on her lap, and then she cuddles up next to you and the both of you watch a movie. She genuinely cares about you. That would be an ideal relationship. I would love that so much. But Yuki-Onna does not strike me as that kind of woman. I could be wrong, but Yuki-Onna strikes me as more so the yandere type. Despite all of that, my answer, I can't escape it. I have to. I want to. I still want to try. Maybe I could be that one that fixes her. I can crack that walnut and get her out of that aggressive shell and then make that very serious-eyed ice princess blush. That would be amazing! I wouldn't recommend her if you don't like the cold or if you value your life, you weakling. But if you weigh the risks and it looks good, go for it. If I had to rank her against the monster girls that I have done so far, I'd probably rank her as below Harpy, but still the perfect choice if you're looking for a demi-human that is basically a human. Basically a human with the added party trick of sucking your soul, loving you whole, and hopefully not freezing your pole. But anyway, that's all I got on the Yuki-Onna. Finally did it! Oh my god. I'll be honest with you, Yuki-Onna was something that I'd planned on doing before Christmas, but after getting settled in and having to take care of some other stuff, it just got pushed to the wayside, so it took me a while to get this one out of here. But finally, at long last, it has been completed. If you're watching at this point in the video, thank you for sticking around this long, and also thanks for putting up with some of the videos that I've been putting on the channel that weren't these. There's a lot of things that I want to do with this channel that are more than just the scholarly stuff. I also want to get involved and try a couple of stunts while I'm at it. I want to try to do stuff that's involved, out in the community, traveling, out and about. That would be incredible. And if I got you guys behind my back to help me accomplish that, it would be more than incredible. It'd be fantastic. It'd be antagonish, to say the least. Before I go, here's a nice challenge for you. I was looking for the perfect pickup line for the Yuki-Onna because I had a previous idea for this skit where I would talk about the harsh reality of winter and then I'd cut to me trying to pick up a date with a snowman. But after watching that footage back, it's as cringy as it sounds. So I didn't do that, thankfully. But I also just couldn't think of a really good Yuki-Onna pickup line. The best pickup line will be pinned to the top of the comments section, and you get the added bonus of knowing that you are our super soldier, our one and only chance of breaking ground with Yuki-Onna. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Sayonara, suckers.
According to my calculations, she's Japanese as fuck. Yep, she's Japa Jesus. Pretty Japanese to me. I say Japa Jesus Almighty.